This is episode 283 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Axel Ragnarsson. Axel is the founder and managing partner of Aligned Real Estate Partners. They focus on acquiring Class B and C value-add assets in multiple markets. He's also the founding partner of Blue Door Living, a property management company based in New Hampshire, and the host of the Multifamily Wealth podcast. Axel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan. Looking forward to it.
Yep. Always like talking to other podcast folks, but especially on the real estate investor end. How did you get started? Because I know you got started early. I think you bought in college.
Yeah. So always been pretty entrepreneurial. And the very quick kind of lead into real estate was in high school and college, I actually bought and sold cars. Like that was my way to make a buck.
Yeah.
So I was flipping cars on Craigslist and getting towards the end of my college time there, and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do post-graduation. And I had an internship with with like this little angel investment group in southern New Hampshire, right about, an hour north of Boston for folks who are not from New England. A guy who was in this group did some hard money lending to flippers. And, I just started learning about what he did, and then ended up learning about real estate and figured flipping cars, flipping houses, one leads to another. So started trying to figure out how to flip houses, and that led me down to finding all the resources that everyone's probably found when they get into real estate, like Bigger Pockets and, podcasts, YouTube, all this or all that. And this is, back 2014, 15 timeframe. Long story short, ended up trying to figure out how to flip houses, but in that process learned about multifamily real estate and rental real estate, buy and hold real estate investing, cash flow, and seemed like that was a much better model. You find a great deal, you fix it up, you pull your money out. Now it's, known as the Burr method. I guess Bigger Pockets popularized that, and started looking for those types of deals. Got really good at the direct to seller marketing and prospecting, and was really, really effective at finding great deals, buying discounted deals. From 2016 to 2020 or so, built a portfolio of small multifamily properties, a whole lot of, 2 to 10 unit properties. Got to about 80, 90 units just within my own portfolio, and then took a step back and said, is this the long-term business you want to run?
Right.
And I had a moment where I was like, your money's spread across all of these projects and you're using a lot of debt, and it's starting to get a little stressful. And long and short, started learning about how to raise capital in a compliant way, right? Started to stumble backwards into syndication, working with LPs, et cetera. Basically 2022, started actually raising money in a real meaningful capacity, which at the time was a couple $1 million in that first year. That business has steadily grown to where we're now raising $5-10 million in equity every year. I still do deals on my own where, my ultimate North Star is still to own a portfolio of real estate that I'm the sole owner of, that I control. And along the way, we're raising capital to take down slightly bigger deals and then a higher volume of deals. And now, our real estate business is very much just centered around finding small to mid-size multifamily deals, many of which we find direct to seller. We buy a few hundred units a year and raise, like I said, $5-10 million a year to capitalize them, work with some partners here and there. And then we run our in-house management company, which is out of Manchester, New Hampshire. Again, about an hour north of Boston for folks that aren't from the area. And we manage it in-house, and then we do some third-party management with that business as well. And that basically takes us to today.
I think it's what people can do on their own. Even if you're just handwriting 10 letters, this is the strategy that will get you a call back in your first 10 letters, because but you really do have to have the mindset. You can't fake the mindset that you're building relationships. I think that's what people try to do, because you have to be if I don't get the sale, like, let's meet up sometime, I got to meet up, or, if you ever want me to take a look at the property or share resources, like you said, that's a complete add value. And I think it's a difference between you're offering someone an opportunity if they're in the market, as opposed to trying to force them to sell, which is really your traditional single family. I have all the cash, I'll buy quick for cash, when they don't even want cash.
100%. And I think, it doesn't really make for a great podcast clip breakout because it's boring, but you have to be willing to do it. It's specific to multifamily, right? Because that's the world that I'm in. It's very long sales cycle with owners who are very relationship driven, and not, they are obviously financially driven because they're sophisticated financial folks typically, but they want to work with buyers who can close, who aren't going to waste their time, who are serious, who they trust, who they like to work with. And I think a very large part of finding deals in multifamily is through relationships, right? It's the wholesaler who wholesales a lot of single family, but this owner who they mailed about their single family all has a 10 unit, and this wholesaler doesn't really know what to do with it. So they're referring it over. So much of what you do as a multifamily investor is just being top of mind with the people who are inside of the marketplace and in the game. And once you start getting in the headspace of, okay, maybe I'm not going to buy Joe's property who owns 123 Main Street. He's wants a little bit too much, etc. He might be able to refer you over to a good GC. He might, he may become a passive investor in your business someday. Like, we've had many sellers who we've reached out to where we have not bought their properties. They knew a little bit too much. They're like, yeah, I'm going to hire a broker if I want to sell it. I'm going to really maximize my dollars. And it's fine.
Yeah,
Good, right?
fair. Yeah.
But they're like, I like what you're doing. I think it's really cool what you're doing, this whole direct to seller thing. I want to passively invest in what you do. We literally have LPs where that's how we've met, as well as people who are like, I'm also looking for deals. If you find something that's pretty close, but doesn't really work for you, maybe you can wholesale it to us or assign it to us. So we've accidentally become like wholesalers to people who want to buy that we've reached out to. And we've kind of built a little list of people that, yeah, this seller wants, 1.5 or a 1.3. But maybe it's worth 1.5 to somebody else. We share it, maybe we pick up a fee here and there.
You have a good relationship with an off-market seller and they're like, listen, my number is just 10,000 more. And you're looking at 10,000 across whatever loan you're doing 15, 30 years. It's like, whatever, $23 a month. No problem. Like, don't be an idiot. It's the same people who call on foreclosures and start by telling them they're in foreclosure. It's like, just, you might as well tell them that they're the worst person in the world. Or you tell them, they tell you what their upset value is, 400,000, and you offer them 350. How's that going to work? I mean, just tell us that you don't know anything about real estate. That's why I like that the lists that you're building, because you're really not encountering any of this. Like you said, these aren't distressed sellers. So I would think that the pressure is even a little off on your end, as opposed to that like hard sell. It's like, hey, I am just going to try to build a relationship. But when you're calling that type of list, they're not selling right away anyway. So maybe it's a little bit easier to make that call. Still not easy, but
Yeah, it's like, if you're doing a cold call, no one likes cold calling, but it doesn't have to be hard where it's like, hey, I invest in insert state, city, whatever, saw you on this property, wanted to introduce myself. We'd love to buy it, but if not, we'd love to meet you. I also buy that. Cool. And what is the guy on the other end of it going to say? Like, I don't want to sell. Okay, that's fine. But I also mentioned I'd like to get to know you. And the thing with real estate folks, especially older real estate folks, which end up becoming the sellers of most of our deals, they like the idea of meeting other people that do what they do. And it doesn't have to be a challenging conversation, as you mentioned. I think that's, it's a nice little shift away from the high pressure, like, I got to get this guy an offer really quick and talk about his property and ask him all these questions. It's like, if you approach it in a friendly manner, you're actually making it much easier to become liked and trusted by the person on the other end of the phone, because that's who they want to work with. Oftentimes, the sellers that we end up working with are the people that they feel comfortable with, that they feel like they know. And that's a good place to start those conversations. For the newer folks who are listening to this, like, use what's at your disposal. Like, use the story around you getting into the business as a pro from a sales standpoint, right? And that was, it's helpful to say, I own these building, I own the building down the street, and we manage the one over here, and this and that and the other, because it helps build your credibility to close. But in the same token, there's a percentage of sellers that don't like the idea of selling to another large, sophisticated investor because they feel like, oh, maybe they're getting one over on me because they know so much. That is an element too. Why? And there is a sense to that, right? Our story helps us pursue larger deals now, right? It helps us pursue the 50, 60, 75 unit deals with the sellers who are like, the last thing they want to do is put on a contract with an unqualified
yeah,
buyer who's wasting their time. They're so protective of their time. Our story now doesn't help us as an investor who's done a lot of deals in a very small area, with the guy who owns a 6 unit who is like, I don't want to sell to a big guy. That's no fun.
right. I want to
They
help
want to
someone
sell to
start out.
they
Yeah.
want to sell to 22-year-old version of Axel
Yeah.
who's like, this is my second deal. I want to manage it forever. I want to take care of your property. I want to take care of your residents. I'm going to be in this for 30 years, help the next generation build their portfolio. And that was young me showing up and that was my pitch. And I think there was a lot of folks who ended up, you got to convince them that you're capable to close and all that. But there is a cohort of smaller sellers where that's the type of buyer they want to work with. So if that's your story, use that, right? If you are really experienced, use that story to target the owners that that would rather work with you. I think there's a lot of folks who are like, they just see it as a negative. I haven't done a deal yet. That's just only a negative. It can
Oh,
actually
no.
be quite a positive with a lot of folks.